Hello and welcome to Legalese. My name is Vincent Perryman and I am a local attorney with the law offices of J. Vincent Perryman. Each month, Legalese focuses on a wide range of legal issues and topics. Today's show covers the Consumer Protection Act. With us now is attorney Lauren Prater of the law offices of J. Vincent Perryman. Lauren, thanks for being with us today. So we hear a lot about the Consumer Protection Act or just consumer protection in general. Where would you want to begin on this topic, because it's pretty broad?
Well, it is. When I was researching this, I found that the Tennessee Consumer Protection Act itself is almost 300 pages. And we hear a lot about it on the news, and we hear a lot about it from our friends when they get into different situations. But what many people may not realize, Vince, is that there's a specific state agency here in Tennessee whose sole mission is, and I'm reading straight off their website, is working to protect consumers and businesses from unfair business practices. And that agency is called the Division of Consumer Affairs. And they have their own website, and it's www.tn.gov/consumer. And when I went to this website, I found so much information, not only the act itself, but how to file a complaint if you get into trouble, what things to be looking for. So I would really suggest that really everyone, because we're all consumers, take a look at this website and see what they have to offer.
Okay, and the thing with that is this is important enough of a topic, I suppose, that somewhere the legislature has created this organization within the government to handle it.
Right.
So how does someone as a business run afoul of this, or how does someone who is a consumer or an individual get involved with it?
Okay. Well, I looked at the definition of a consumer in this act, and this act, when you go to it on the website, you'll see that it covers all categories that you could possibly imagine in business. There's a section on beauty pageants, electricians, cigarettes, health clubs, just all aspects of business. And I looked at their definition of a consumer, and it's a lot to read, but basically it's anyone who buys, rents, leases, or otherwise acquires anything from anybody. So in a sense, I can't imagine anyone who isn't a consumer in some form or fashion. But some of the unfair or deceptive practices that the Act prohibits could be anything from misrepresenting goods, such as passing off something as new when it's actually used, or passing it off as being in a better condition than it actually is, to causing confusion about where the good came from, who endorses the good, or even, Vince, putting things on sale, advertising that your store is going out of business when it actually isn't. All those are unfair and deceptive practices that the Act prohibits.
Okay. Yeah, and the thing with it is the Act just doesn't cover consumer goods, but also services, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as far as with that, I mean, we kind of know consumer is pretty easy on this, and then so a consumer goes into a business, what would give rise to an unfair, deceptive practice?
Well, as far as services are concerned, I can think of two examples right offhand that have actually happened to me. One is an example in which I went into one of these 10-minute oil change places with my car. The man told me that my radiator fluid needed to be replaced. He showed it to me, showed me how awful it was, and asked me, you know, how long it had been since I'd replaced it. Well, for all I knew, it had been since I got the car. So I had him replace that, and then the very next time I went to have my oil changed at the same place, they told me the same thing. And you and I know that that can't be true. So there's an example where someone is telling you that a repair needs to be done when it doesn't. And that's one way that businesses can be deceptive. Another example is with contracts. I recently signed a contract with a health club here in Memphis, and when I was researching this Tennessee Consumer Protection Act, I found that there's a whole section on health clubs and what their contracts require. Among other things, a health club contract has to tell the consumer, tell you and me, when we have a right to cancel the contract, under what conditions, how long we have to cancel the contract. And there's actually a whole section of language that the Act requires to be in the contract right above the signature line in at least 10-point font and bold font. I know that wasn't in my contract when I looked at it, so that's just something to be aware of for anyone who's signing contracts with health clubs or cell phone companies or any of the variety of other businesses that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Well, and I think one thing that's important there too is anytime somebody's signing a contract, I've had people come in and they've signed a contract for car rental or something like that, and they're like, well, here's my contract. And I start reading through the contract and I'm like, this is page 1 of 4. Where are your other 3 pages? And so many times we get into the whole signing it because we want whatever this is we're trying to get, and we walk out without getting a copy of that contract.
Right.
And I think that that's an important point to make is you want a copy of whatever it was you signed, so that way if something does go awry, you can refer back to it and say, okay, is this or is this not a term of that contract?
Right.
And then, of course, with this, we got 300 pages of law that we can compare the contract to and say, are these provisions in here?
Right. And so many times, we're assured by whoever we're doing business with that it's just a standard contract. It's the same language that is in every other contract, and so we don't even bother to read it before we sign it. And I'm as guilty of that as the next person. You're given a 5-page contract in small print. You don't feel like you have time to sit there and read through it.
Right.
So you just sign. But
and the other thing too is the flip side of this is if you are running a business and you're having people sign a contract, you should be well aware of what is in your own contract.
Right.
Because I know I've seen times where folks just don't know. So when we return, we'll continue our discussion on the Consumer Protection Act. Please stay with us.